All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to an episode of Dear Dr. Fantasy. And for my very special guest today, it is none other than the assassin elf. And the emphasis on the because it's the one and only Joanna. Hello, Joanna. How are you?
I'm great, Philip. Thank you so much for having me back on Dear Dr. Fantasy. I've been so
Yay.
excited about this discussion.
Me too. Me too. I mean, it's really an excuse just to get together and see how things are going and touch base and talk about books and all that fun stuff. But you are one of the few repeat guests I've had now, and that's a very short list of people. So yeah, my intention is to do as many people as I can on this show, but sometimes it's just good to talk to an old friend. So, I'm very
Oh,
happy that you're here today.
and
So,
it's always a pleasure to talk with you. So, yay, I'm very happy
yay.
about it. I was on episode 2 of Dear Dr.
That's
Fantasy,
right. That's
and
right.
that was before you even asked the standard question.
It
So,
was. It was also before I started making the really goofy thumbnails. So
that's
that's
true.
another reason, honestly, I asked you back because I felt like I had to rectify that. I have to put you in a goofy thumbnail. So,
I'm excited to see it.
yeah, I have no idea what it's going to be yet, but I'm sure it'll be fun. Anyway, I always giggle while I'm making those thumbnails. I use these two free apps. One is called Eraser, and another is called Fonto. And I just manually erase people's faces and stick them onto, book covers or whatever. And then I have to usually do the hair. You have to cut out everything except the hair and then stick it on the face. It's quite a process, actually. It takes me quite a while to do those.
You're so good at them. Is
Uh,
there any Dear Dr. Fantasy thumbnail that's your favorite at this point?
oh gosh. You know, I it's so hard to say. There are so many that make me laugh, like the one with AP.
The pony ride, the cosplay
Oh no,
pony.
so that was for Dust of Dreams, but
Oh, that's
the
right.
thumbnail that I did with him is from a cover for Legend by David Gemmell. So I
Oh,
have for his DDF episode, and then I put his face on the axe wielding, and then I've got me below it going, kind of. So that's kind of
caught in the
the
act.
that one makes me chuckle every time. Yeah, no, there are just so many that I know. I have fun with them, and they're really, I think, they're so bad that they kind of almost edge into being good. That's my at least my line on the thumbnails is that they're really obviously um, not very very professional, but I think that's part of the charm,
They're the
maybe.
best. Yeah. No, they're the best. I love them.
So in this day when everything else is being done by AI,
Oh.
I think my thumbnails stick out for being actually really clumsy.
This is a good point. You want
Yeah.
to get ahead with AI, and the AI will not be able to replicate your thumbnails for
No.
DDF.
Yeah. Just make a really bad cheesy thumbnail. AI can't do it. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sticking out once again. So, but yeah, I don't want to get started on AI because you know how I feel about all that.
Oh, yeah.
Not my
Yeah.
favorite thing these days. Although I'm usually careful to preface that with I do think that AI is very useful in many, many ways. It's actually beyond useful. It's actually extremely helpful in many realms, and where we could use that kind of powered up ability to make quick calculations and make life better and simpler. But I really feel that we should be wary of using it for replacing human creativity. And that's where I'm drawing my own line. And, I want to support not only my fellow writers, but my fellow artists, designers, people who do creative things. I want that to flourish. And I don't want that to be threatened in any way, because I know that a lot of artists have really taken a hit to their income post all this AI stuff and everything. So,
And also the ethics issues that are involved with that as
yeah,
well,
yeah, yeah.
which are
And
frightening.
voice, so narration is now the latest thing where every time I log into ACX, which is the platform behind Audible, I'm asked if I want to use their AI narrator every
Mm.
single time. They asked me twice. I have to X out on one thing, and then they ask me again, and I'm really sure, no, I don't want this, and I X out again. I hope that's temporary, but I keep being, they're pushing it hard, in other words, and I don't want that. I want my narrator, Alan. I want to support
He's the best. Yes.
someone, he is the best, and I want to support him, and I want people like him to have careers doing stuff like this because I think that there is just something fundamentally human to his performance that no AI will ever be able to match. But that's just me, I guess. So,
No, I completely agree.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so happy with his audiobook narrations too. I finished listening to Prophet of Adan. And he just really nailed it. I mean, there's so many great moments that I could talk about in there, but I don't want to get too spoilery for it. But he does a dragon voice beautifully. He does so many, just even minor characters. He really gives them a distinct and memorable voice. And of course, some of the major characters, I never would have done them that way myself, but now that Alan has done them, I'm almost hearing them that way in my own head, all the time. So,
Yeah. It's just been amazing to watch your journey with audiobooks because I know
yeah,
even a year ago, I would say you were kind of writing it off as something that you didn't feel like you could ever do. And I know some people
sure.
that say that they say, well, I've tried audiobooks, I just can't do it. My mind wanders.
Yeah.
And it seems like it shifted for you over this last year.
That is so true. And it
Yeah.
really was Alan's narration of The Way of it, Dan, that changed it for me or made me realize that, okay, maybe I can do this. And the reason it worked was I wasn't worried about, I mean, I know the story pretty well. So
Yeah.
I didn't worry about missing stuff. I didn't worry
Hmm.
about oh, I didn't quite catch that line. I was thinking of something else for a moment. I got to rewind, and that just got to be so obnoxious when I tried
Yes.
The Lord of the Rings with Andy Serkis, which is marvelous. So when I listened to Alan do it, and I just enjoyed the heck out of it. I had a blast. I thought, okay, let me try this again. And I did try Andy Serkis's narration of Lord of the Rings, and it worked this time. Just with that, I think I brought that same attitude toward it where, okay, I mean, I know Lord of the Rings inside and out as well, which is why I chose it. And I relaxed and enjoyed the performance. I think it actually helped me to be more attentive. I was not as like tense thinking, okay, pay attention, pay attention. I don't know, it worked for whatever reason. And then I've just sort of moved on from there. And I've even started to listen to books that I've never even read before and I'm able to enjoy those stories. So I do think I don't know what you think of this because you're more experienced I think than I am with audiobooks. I do still think that I don't retain the audiobook listening experience as much as I do the physical read. Just because I think when I'm reading, I can go back much more easily, reread sentences. I just feel like I'm not quite absorbing it as deeply when it's an audiobook listen. Now, there may be people out there who are much better, much more experienced. That's why I wanted to ask you. Do you feel like there's a difference between listening to an audiobook and reading the book physically in terms of your retention?
That is such a good question. I think for me, so I'm very hit or miss with audiobooks. And in fact, I go through phases where I just feel like I just can't get into an audiobook. And
Ah,
I will just read. But I've also done immersion reading where I read with my eyes and with my ears at the same time. And
yeah.
for me, I found that to be a really great experience. But when it comes to retention, I do feel like well, okay, here's the thing with audiobooks, I tend to do better. If I'm just listening to an audiobook, I tend to do better if it's something that's more like a Prydain story that's
Uh-huh.
easier
Yeah.
to understand, or if it's something that's not fantasy, like for example, like a literary fiction story or something along those lines, or nonfiction for that matter. Those are easier for me with the audiobook for some reason. But when I'm doing world building and trying to remember a whole bunch of names, I
Mm,
just feel like I don't feel as grounded if I'm
mhm.
not seeing the words in front of me. I don't feel as grounded. And so I find it harder. And I remember there were a couple of times like I I've tried to listen to audiobooks and I have felt that way. Like I feel like I understood the story and got it, but I don't feel like confident enough to do a single review of this book
Uh-huh.
because my eyes weren't on the page. And this brings up another question for you actually, because I did a video in the not so, again, just fairly recently about slow reading and how
Yeah.
I identify myself as a slow reader. And I tried to explain in the video that this is not something that came about as far as being a booktuber. Like this is something I've felt self-conscious about my entire life.
Yep.
And mostly because of how I think I was treated in schools, but that's a whole other conversation. But one thing that if you listen to a lot of these videos that teach you how to speed read,
Hmm.
a lot of them will talk about, I know I'm pivoting from audiobooks a little bit here, but a lot of them talk about not subvocalizing the text. So don't hear the text in your head.
Right.
And also this idea about getting rid of reading regressions, which is when your eyes backtrack to relook at sentences. And these are two things I know I do often. I often, when I'm reading visually, I hear things in my head. I have like a very, very strong narration in my head. I'm
Hmm.
also good at visualizing what I read, but I also do a lot of what you were talking about rereading sentences. And sometimes it is to appreciate the sentences. Sometimes I feel like I just have to reread it to kind of fully take it in its complexity, especially if I'm reading something like Wolf, which I'm reading right now, Gene
Yeah.
Wolfe. And so, but I wonder about that, like the messages that are being brought forth about how to read faster in every video
Hmm.
talking about stop subvocalizing, don't do any reading regressions. And I've started to question since I made my slow reading video, are these things bad? Are these things indicative of poor literacy?
Yeah. So I think, and you can apply it to audiobooks too, because a lot of people do listen to them sped up, which I
Mhm.
can't do. Yeah, I certainly, I don't feel ready to listen to my audiobooks at anything other than just the regular speed. But yeah, I'll grant that there are people certainly better, certainly when it comes to audiobooks than I am, and who take in on their stories that way for whatever reason, maybe because they have to or they want to, and maybe they are just as good at retaining, just because they're better at it than I am, Um, but as far as physical reading goes and speed reading, I do have thoughts on that because I feel I agree with you in certain cultures, let's say BookTube culture, for example, or even Goodreads, there is sort of it feels sometimes like a bit of a competition. Like I read 500 books this year or whatever, and I've never really cared about any of that myself. And I also feel there is no way you can uh, take in a book as deeply if you're speed reading it versus reading it at a pace where you're reading every word, because when you're speed reading, you're not reading every word. You're skipping over stuff. You're getting the essence of it, but you're skipping over a lot of stuff. You're not absorbing it as much. So I think that for me, anyway, I know how to speed read, and I can do it if I need to, and I will do it sometimes if, in certain contexts. Not when I'm reading anything for YouTube, but in certain contexts, I will speed read if I have to. If it's for like a meeting where there's just a lot of bureaucratic nonsense I have to get through, I'll speed read it. I don't care about that stuff. But so I know how to do it, but I also know that I'm not absorbing that information nearly as deeply. And if I were called on to have a discussion about a book, and I could definitely tell you that if I read it at the same, because I'm like you, I am very slow and deliberate when I read, and and I enjoy that much more, and I absorb much more. I will be able to have a good discussion. I don't even need to take notes as long as I read that way. But if I speed read it, I will be much less useful in that discussion. I won't be able to recall as much. I won't have thought about the story nearly as deeply. And so, look, if that's your thing, if just counting the number of books you've read gives you fulfillment, then good for you, that's great. But for me, that would never be a very satisfying measure. I don't even count how many books I read, actually. I don't. And probably a majority of my reading, maybe for YouTube, but I read almost as much for my day job. I read a lot of other authors I never talk about even. For my day job. So I'm reading a lot. And it's just, for me, quality over quantity every time. There's no question about it. And even for people who are habitual speed readers, I'm sorry, you're not absorbing that as deeply as you would be if you were really slowing down and taking it in and appreciating the prose and thinking about the themes as you read and reflecting. That's the best way you're going to be able to absorb that story. And that's why I can talk about a book even a couple years after I've read it, because I've really engaged with it. Whereas I would venture to say that, well, I'll just speak for myself. If I were to speed read all those books, I would not remember a thing, after a month or so, So that's my
Yeah.
take. I don't know. What do you
Yeah.
think about all that?
No, yeah, I agree with you. Somebody brought up in my comment section, they said that there were a lot of people who commented that had a very similar experience as I did.
Uh-huh.
And they said, and one person brought up such a great point. They said, how do you appreciate poetry or a beautiful quote or
Yes.
passage in a book if you're
Yeah.
not reading every word, if you're not taking the time to like
Right.
subvocalize or even read it aloud or yeah, so that was something that came up in my thoughts. And so I can understand how there so I asked that question, is subvocalizing and regressive reading, is that indicative of poor literacy skills? I mean, I can see an indicate I can see a case where that might be what happens. Like maybe somebody is struggling with learning to read and they are really having to slow down like and read every word and think every word and 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 also retrack what they're reading. But I also don't think that's necessarily the case. I think you can actually be a fairly literate person. I don't think I have literacy. I mean, I'm not saying I'm the most literate person. I'm sure there's a lot more work I could do in refining my critical reading skills, but I don't think my critical reading skills are by any means below average or poor.
Oh, I
And
know they're
so
not. They're
yeah,
actually quite outstanding. Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. But yeah, I don't but I still do that. I still read,
Me
like if I'm
too.
reading visually, I still reread sentences and I still
Yep.
subvocalize quite a bit.
Yep.
So I guess I just don't, I feel like that's kind of a blanket statement to say, oh, that means you're not either your literacy is low or that that's bad or that's a bad thing that you need to read
Yeah.
faster, the productivity thing. Uh, it's
I
such an
think quite the
interesting,
opposite, really. It actually is an indication that your literacy is rather high, uh,
uh,
because you're absorbing things and you're thinking about them and you're reflecting and you're doing critical thinking. That's a much more sophisticated exercise than just reading for plot as fast as you can. I think
yeah.
that's a much deeper experience of literacy. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I read because I want to be immersed in a story. I want
Yeah.
to feel the story in a deep way. And so if I'm just kind of skimming and I'm not into the story, it's really hard for me. And I've noticed that too. Like if I'm listening to an audiobook and I speed it up a little faster,
Hmm.
it depends on the type of story again, but sometimes I find that actually interferes with my enjoyment. Like I don't enjoy the story as much if I'm trying to go fast. Like I enjoy it more sometimes if I take my time. Depends on the story, of course, but I
Yeah,
think that's
just to
the
give an
part.
analogy, if I'm at a really nice restaurant and I order some really good food, am I going to wolf it down as fast as I can? Or am I going to savor that food bite by bite and maybe pause in between, have a sip of wine and appreciate the flavor of it, reflect on it? I think it's the same with a good book. You're going
Yeah.
to want to savor that, appreciate it, be immersed in it. So yeah, why would I wolf down that kind
Or
of
go to a museum. That's an analogy I've heard
Yeah.
somebody
You
say.
just
Like if
run
you
through
go to a
every room and
museum.
say, okay, I saw the museum,
I can't
what's the point of
imagine.
that?
Yeah. Well, and this is a question that has come up for me, and that I've wondered about for a while. I remember having a conversation about it with somebody a while back, like a year or two back. And that's I understand some people just naturally read quickly. Like I totally get
Uh-huh.
that. And that's not what I'm talking about when I say people who are speed reading necessarily. Like that's almost a different technique than
Hmm.
somebody who just naturally flows through text quickly.
Right.
But at the same time, one thing that I am genuinely curious about, and I have no judgment to people who naturally read quickly. I'm happy for those people. And I brought this up before, but I'm genuinely curious for the people who are able to listen to audiobooks, like let's say 3 times speed or able to read books really, really fast, whatever it is.
Yeah.
How do they, how do they experience emotional moments and stories? Because
Yeah.
like there are times when I've had to put the book down because I'm like crying
Yeah.
or I pause because I'm like stunned by a beautiful sentence or a
Yeah.
beautiful scene like I just don't, that's where I don't understand. Like I'm sure it's possible. I mean, maybe people just stop, but
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like I have to slow down to feel things. So,
Yeah, just like when you're in that museum and you're in front of a piece of art that you really want to absorb and you want to, think about it and you will see things just like when you're reading a poem. You don't get everything in a poem the first time you read it. You have to
mhm,
read it again and again and hear it maybe even and really absorb it and then just think about it word by word. And if you just read it once and say, okay, I read that, off I go, you're missing a ton of things. There's
yeah,
no way you're getting that whole poem on the first read. And I would say the same goes for a novel. If you're just speed reading it, you're missing a lot,
yeah,
But again, if you're just reading for plot and that's all you care about, then, that's great. That makes you happy. But for me, I would never be happy reading that way. I just
yeah,
couldn't. I would feel it would nag at me. Oh, what am I missing?
yeah,
Just like I wouldn't want to run through a museum every single room and say, "Oh, I saw the whole museum." I'd rather look at one room of that museum and absorb each of the pieces as deeply as I can than run through the entire thing
I
and feel
love
like I've
that.
seen that. But
I love that. My husband, he got after me because I kept saying, I'm a slow reader, I'm a slow reader. And he said, you need to, he's a counselor. So he's like, you need to reframe that. You need to call yourself a thoughtful reader. You're a thoughtful.
yes, I think your husband is a wise man, and I think he's 100% correct on that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I can see a point. I can see use though. Just to play devil's advocate with myself, I can see use though. Like for example, with poetry we just mentioned, I
Yeah.
can see a case for reading a poem once and not trying to analyze it, not trying to understand it, and then rereading it. So like you're reading it first just to kind of get the flow of it and get the feel of it and just see what
Yeah.
comes up naturally, and then go back and reread it. I think some texts benefit that approach where you're not really trying to get it the first time and then
Oh,
the
sure.
second time
Yep. For
let
sure.
let it be more absorbed.
Yep.
So
And sometimes you go to a poetry reading where somebody's reading their poem.
mm,
And I enjoy that, but I'll confess, first, it helps me a lot if I have it printed out in front of me while they're reading it. Because if they're just reciting, I'm taking in some of it, but I'm probably missing a lot.
oh yeah. I mean, I could say the same thing for classical music. It's like sometimes if I or even just really good music that I love, because sometimes my favorite pieces of music are ones that I'll listen to the first time and I just kind of think, okay, there's something there. And then it's usually upon the second or third or fourth time listening that I'm just completely absorbed and obsessed with that piece of music. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it just doesn't happen right away. It just depends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And even with the poems that you find in some of the fantasies that I love, like in Lord of the Rings, I feel like if I pause and I really absorb those songs and poems, I'm going to see things and appreciate things that I didn't previously. I'll make connections like, when Aragorn is singing about Beren and Luthien, and having that be an obvious thematic connection to his own situation with Arwen and
Mm.
appreciating the depth of his emotion as he's singing that and realizing he's thinking of Arwen, as he's singing this. Whereas if you just skim that, you're gonna miss all that emotional depth of that moment. You know what I mean? I think.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love that. And you were also talking about being able to absorb the themes and be able to understand things in depth and see those connections, like you were just mentioning.
Yeah.
And I think this is something worth bringing up because you've studied literature, so you've studied these techniques quite a bit, and you've talked about them on your channel, which I think is so wonderful. As for myself, like before I started a channel, I had no clue how to talk about a book. Like I had no clue. I feel like it's a skill I've wanted to learn because I just thought it was fascinating how people could talk about books.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a skill I think too to learn to understand literature in different ways or have different perspectives about it or
Yeah.
analyze it.
I'm not sure. I mean, I will respectfully disagree with you that you had no clue whatsoever. I think you actually were pretty good to begin with. But I will also say that your conscious efforts to improve at this have been very noticeable. Like
Thank you.
you've really impressed me in the last few years with some of your reviews and your points during discussions. It's just a great example. I think I would hold it up to anyone to say, look, this is what you can do if you really want to,
Oh,
be any skill. Honestly, this goes for any skill. Like you could be working out, you get better the more you do it, right? And I've watched you just and really enjoyed seeing your journey as a reader, someone who's engaged on a level that you bring up many times things that I didn't see. And I think, wow, that's really a cool observation. That's really enhanced my appreciation for this book.
oh,
So
thank
it's
you.
really fun, and just an example of someone who has consciously gotten better and better and better at this skill, which anyone can do if they really want to.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That is such an honor coming from you. Because I know you obviously, I mean, clearly you have the skill and have had it for many
Well, I've
years.
I've
And
had the privilege of practicing it, very consciously and having great mentors
Mhm.
in graduate school and just having years of teaching and learning from my students too, because they're always coming up with things that I had, oh wow, I've been teaching this story for 20 years and now you tell me this and I'm like, oh, that's cool, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
it just it's practice. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah. I've become more and more interested in it. And I think it's become a bigger thing too, because on BookTube, I want to say, and I know I've mentioned this to you before, but I feel like I've been watching BookTube since I want to say either 2017 or maybe 2018. I can't remember
Okay.
exactly what year I discovered BookTube, and I was watching a lot of it.
Huh.
And it was before I found your channel. And
I wasn't there until
not,
2020. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. And I found you and Alan around the same time, which were like the biggest influences on me starting my own journey.
Huh.
And one thing I noticed is that whenever I'd listen to booktubers back before I found you and Alan, is that they'd rarely talk about theme. I found most of the time they did analyze books, but in terms of the world building, the magic, the characters, the
Mhm.
plot.
Mhm.
And that's a level of understanding a book
It
on a deeper
is.
way for sure. Yeah. I'm not taking anything away from that. But I think what spoke to me is, oh, my cat is getting into my wires.
Oh
I'm
no.
like, okay, sorry. I had to
Oh
pause for a
dear.
second. She just grabbed my wire there for my phone.
Oh, that.
Be good, Khaleesi. Okay. Um, so back then though, not everybody talked about theme until you and Alan came on the scene. And I felt like once you and Alan came on the scene, although Alan says he doesn't talk
Alan is
about
so fun.
theme,
He's a closet theme guy.
he's a closet pretentious booktuber. And
Yeah.
and it inspired me because I love themes. Like that's something that's always been interesting to me just in
Yeah.
general. And so I started to notice this trend towards that. And now I think that's actually there are more and more booktubers, especially in our growing epic fantasy corner of booktube,
Yeah.
that are interested in looking at theme and looking at books in deeper dimensions and
Yeah.
noticing what they're doing across the genre and across history. And I think that's exciting to me to
Me
look at
too.
books in that way.
Me too. I mean, look at some of our friends too, and myself. I mean, I feel like I've learned a lot being on this platform and interacting with people like you and Alan and Jimmy and AP and Murphy and just like on it goes. Jimmy's another great example of somebody who's really just I admire him so much
Yes.
for how consciously and deliberately he gets better at stuff.
Oh,
Like this is a
yes.
guy who's, I like his approach to life in general because you can just see him taking in a realm and thinking, I'm going to get good at that. Wherever he is, to begin with, I'm going to get good at this. And you see him do it step by step by step. I've read one of his short stories more recently. Man, he's gotten
I
really
did too.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gotten really good.
I might have edited it a few times before you got to it.
Okay. That's cool.
Give myself a little plug.
Well, you know what? Showing your writing to people whose opinions you respect is also a really great idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's gotten great at analyzing as
Oh,
well.
yeah. He's so good. He is
Yeah.
absolutely somebody I admire And I just enjoy his thoughtful analysis on the spot,
Yeah.
live on camera.
He's always been
Amazing.
good at being live on camera. That's something that just at the skill he has. Probably he developed it when he was wrestling, I think.
Yeah.
There's definitely some overlap there. So he's always been good at that. But yeah, now he's also combining that with I think a really wonderful ability to analyze.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'll point to Murphy as well
Yeah.
because I followed Murphy for many years and happened to now that I can call her a friend. I mean, I've seen her put so much conscientious effort into refining her review style and
Yeah.
putting, as she did such a thoughtful critique of a certain chapter in Dust of Dreams and looked at it in such a nuanced way. I don't know if you watched her review of Dust of Dreams, but
I haven't seen it. Yeah.
it was incredible the way she analyzed that story
Yeah.
and various parts. And it wasn't just like one thing. It wasn't just like, oh, I liked it or I didn't like it. It was like so many different components like that she was looking at in detail. And I know she puts a lot of effort into that. And I think she's
Yeah.
grown too, even though, she's one of our OG booktubers on
Yeah.
BookTube, but
Oh yeah.
she really has put so much thought into the craft. Uh,
Yeah.
and
When
I
I
think
first interacted with her, she was already really great
she was,
at
yeah.
analyzing. So, but I'm sure that if you were to look at her earliest stuff, maybe you can see a journey there for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she's somebody I know has really put thoughtful thought and time into wanting to be a better reviewer. And I just think
Yeah.
that's a very special thing that we're seeing on BookTube in general is just that people wanting to go deeper into analysis, wanting to
Yeah.
go deeper into what a story is doing.
Yeah.
And I have been seeing some videos come up lately. I think there's an interesting conversation in a broad strokes way that's been happening about, I think it responds to some book talkers, which I won't go into or talk about.
Oh yeah.
But
I'm
there's
not
the
on TikTok at all. So
me neither. Me
yeah.
neither. I've just seen some video responses that are frustrated with certain book talkers who want to read a certain way.
Uh-huh.
I think advocacy for something is always better if you advocate what you're for rather than what you're against.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've noticed though is that there have been a couple of videos on various channels I've noticed lately about how to read critically.
Yes.
And I think that's an interesting topic and I'm glad that's catching on. I'm glad people are
Yeah.
more and more interested in that. But it also brought up, I think, on my feed, I mentioned this to you briefly before this video. I've been curiously following the trends about literacy and about how literacy is being handled in the US as we seem to have a problem with literacy.
Big problem. Yeah.
Yeah. And there have been some conversations, maybe not so much about literacy education in K through 12 setting as much, but more so in higher ed and how you see conversations about students not being able to pick up a book anymore or wanting to pick up a book anymore, and also about literature programs in the US and about, I didn't realize this until recently. I found a video about a month ago in which somebody was talking about this divide, especially in the US, where certain universities are leaning more and more over the last decade or so towards uh, literary theory
Uh-huh.
rather than literary criticism, as those are two distinct camps. So literary criticism would be more engaged with analyzing what the book is doing, maybe analyzing the writing style, the themes, the prose, the different techniques that the author is employing, maybe how it fits into the genre.
Yeah.
Whereas literary theory is using a theoretical lens, a specific theoretical lens
Right.
to analyze literature.
Yep.
Uh, and I guess that US schools, that maybe some of them have leaned a little bit heavier onto literary theory, which is
Hmm.
looking at things like what are some examples of literary theory, like Marxist theory or
Sure.
um, what else?
Oh,
Postmodernist
there's yeah,
theory,
postmodernist, feminist,
feminist theory,
queer
queer
theory.
theory,
There's
critical race theory,
critical
probably.
race
Yeah.
theory, which has become part of the unfortunately
Unfortunately, yeah.
the whole political back and forth in the last couple of years. But yes, yes, yeah, I hear where you're coming from. Yeah.
Yeah. In one video that I saw, the person seemed to advocate for both. They said, I think a healthy
Yes.
program, they said that they chose, I can't remember what university they went to. It was an Ivy League school. And they said they chose that program consciously because there was both. And they think there's
Yeah.
a place for both in the deeper understanding of literature.
Yes.
And yeah. And then another video I saw yesterday, um, a different person, a different channel, the person was advocating against, they didn't use the word literary theory, but I think they were advocating against it because they said that that's sociology. That's not the understanding of what literature is doing.
Okay. All
And
right.
so I thought that was interesting. I mean, I'm an outsider because this is not my domain in
Yeah.
academia, but I just am curious about your perspective about this issue. Is this something that you've seen or noticed,
Oh,
this
yeah.
conversation?
This goes back quite a ways, really. It's not a recent debate, if you will.
I've
Um,
heard that too. Yeah.
I will say that for myself, as in terms of my own teaching, I tend to be much more of on the literature criticism side
Mhm.
of things. As somebody who teaches primarily introduction to literature and survey courses, I used to teach graduate students, but I don't teach graduate students these days. So graduate school is definitely a point where you want to be using literary theory, no doubt about it. But for people just maybe for the first time reading, I mean, there's theoretically they're supposed to be reading in high school, but I find that a lot of students come to me having never read a book. And I've had students say that I've never read a book.
What?
Yeah.
In college?
And
Wow.
they're in college and they will tell me, I've never read a book. Yeah. I was like, okay, well, yeah. I mean, you talked about the crisis of literacy in our culture. And I think um, there are various reasons for this. One of them, of course, is the competition that reading has nowadays in terms of entertainment. There's the internet and phones and video games and all of this. But also, I think our education system is not geared toward helping students really appreciate stories and literature in general. We have a system that is dependent on grades and exams and standardized tests, all of which are actually not conducive to deeper learning. They are, in fact, conducive to what I've called, and many other people have called, bulimic learning, which is, you take it in and then you just vomit it out and you forget about it. It's not transformative in any way. And I feel that this is a system that does not really, when you think about it, it does not incentivize actually engaging with stories. We're at a point where a lot of high school students, it's just not the students' fault, but everything is so geared toward these dumb standardized tests that they're no longer teaching in a lot of high schools entire novels. They're just teaching them how to analyze excerpts of novels.
Yeah.
That again tells me that, okay, the priority here is the grade and the test. It's not learning. And those two things are actually exclusive on some level. Like you're not learning if all you care about is the grade or the number, right? So I don't blame the students entirely. And if you don't have an incentive within the system to engage deeply with stories, most people are not going to do it. So part of it is just this broader system. Now, when it comes to theory versus literature criticism and these approaches, I agree with the person whose video you watched who said, why not both? Why not both? Because there is great value in having these different lenses through which you can approach various stories. I have many times grown in my appreciation of a story when someone comes at it with a particular critical lens, a feminist lens, or for example, and I'm like, wow, that really opens this up in some really interesting ways, creating a conversation with some wonderful critical thinking. And so I don't think it's a question of either or at all. It really shouldn't be. It's like we have these tools, and why not have all of them in your kit, as it were? And the more tools you have to open up a work of literature, the better, in my opinion. I don't think you should feel forced to, that you have to apply a specific lens or any lens at all, that you can read just to enjoy the story and maybe do a bit of literature criticism without applying any of these more systematic, literary theories. But don't discount the value of these things. They really do add a lot to our understanding. And the idea that, oh, this is sociology, not, come on, really? Like in the real world, do we go around with divisions in between everything? Like this is this discipline. This is I hate the idea of also disciplinary boundaries.
Mm,
That is not conducive to deeper learning either. Let's pull these boundaries down. If somebody from sociology has an insight that helps me to appreciate a story, bring it on, you know? If
mm.
somebody from psychology helps me to see an archetypal pattern in my stories that I love, I love it. I absolutely love this. If somebody from biology has something to add to the conversation, why not? For when in the real world, we don't have all these walls in between our all this knowledge. So why
Oh,
would
I
we do
love
that?
this. Yeah,
Right?
I love this so much. Thank you. I love the soapbox. I was just so curious. Like, it's just a conversation, like I said, I've been like so curiously watching that I feel like I'm on the outside of,
Yeah.
but it is, I mean, that is going to affect our world. These conversations affect
Yeah.
our culture. And I love what you said though about like, let's take these boundaries off. Like we can learn from other areas and they can be integrated.
Yeah. Knowledge has become so specialized,
It has.
and there are very few people who have the ability to, in a interdisciplinary way,
Mhm.
bring big insights that can shift the way people see things, you know. Like that book by Sapolsky we both
Mhm.
read, okay?
Yeah.
That's a good example of somebody doing something more interdisciplinary, taking
Mhm.
knowledge from realms where, yeah, he's not the expert, but he has taken his time, done his homework, and he said, okay, let's see if my insights hold up when we approach them from a sociological perspective, not just my neuroscientific perspective. Let's see what they look like from a psychological perspective. Let's see what, I love that.
I
And
love
people used
that.
to do that
Yeah.
a lot more in the past, but we've drilled down so deep in our little disciplinary, silos that we've lost the ability to talk to people over there, and to me, that's just tragic. Because
It makes me wonder too, because the original universities, like the word university comes from universal. And it
yeah,
was this idea of integrating a universal education that
yeah,
incorporated a variety of subjects, ones that we now see as opposed to each other, like humanities over here and science and math over here, STEM
yeah,
over here. Yeah. Oh, that is so well said though, Philip. I love that. It also makes me it makes me think of fantasy too, because of the genres, how we sometimes get too trapped in pigeonholing genres. And in some ways that
mhm,
can be helpful. Like if somebody's trying to look for a recommendation and they know what they're in for. And then in other ways, it it gets us so far away from what literature can do and the beauty of not feeling like a book has to follow a specific, I don't know, that has to be one thing, that it could be
yeah,
multiple things or do multiple things beautifully.
yeah. Totally agree. Totally agree. And many of our favorite authors just ignore those boundaries.
Yeah, I love that. hmm
Yeah,
And it's interesting just learning across fields too. I was just listening to the World Con panel, the epic fantasy panel. Have you watched
I
any
have
of
not
that?
listened to it yet. I really do want to hear it though. Yeah.
It's posted on Brandon Sanderson's channel. So
Yep.
I was actually just listening to it this morning, and Robin Hobb was talking about how she researches to write
Mm,
fantasy, like how
yeah.
important that is. That you don't, is that somebody said something along the lines of like, oh, fantasy, you could just make things up. That's so fun. And she's like, no, no, you have to do research. Like, you better know what this is going to do to in your geography. And
Yes.
uh,
I actually
it,
saw this excerpt you're
yeah,
talking.
you probably did on,
I did
yeah.
see that excerpt. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So agree. I so
yeah.
agree. Or take a Jenny Wirtz.
Oh yeah, her equestrian knowledge.
I mean, she brings knowledge of so many interesting things to her
hmm
writing, and that brings a level of authenticity and immersion to her world that she creates that I just
Yes.
adore. And she's somebody, a beautiful example of somebody who is fearless in pursuing knowledge wherever it might be and ignoring those boundaries. Like she's just going to go do it. So I love that about her, and she's a great example of somebody who just brings knowledge from different realms and makes them part of her story that she's telling.
There is so much that she's gotten from like our real world and
Yeah,
integrated it into fantasy. It's so interesting how she's done that. It's so
yeah,
fascinating. Yeah.
yeah. I love it. I love it. And yeah, to me, it's like, why wouldn't I want to get immersed in that level of knowledge? And she does it in a way, though, that's skillful. It's obviously not her. Sometimes writers will, and I know because I've been tempted to do this myself many times. It's like, okay, I took all this time to do all this research for what ends up being a paragraph, in my 700-page book. I mean, we're talking about days of research that go into a paragraph, and the
Wow.
temptation, the temptation is to basically share everything I know about this little topic, and I would take pages and pages away from the story, but that would not be a wise move. I'm diverting from the story, and it's not serving the story at that point. It's just showing people, look what I know, because I did all this research. So now I know all about blacksmithing. Let me tell you about it for 10 pages while I divert you from the story. So
Mm.
you have to be careful with is it serving the story, or you're just showing off the fact that you did days of research into sailboats or whatever, and you want to show how much you know.
Yeah,
Because
that's
I feel like
important.
that's
That's
a
important.
yeah, story first is kind of like I have to keep telling myself this story
Oh,
first. Yeah.
yeah. I think that's important to a certain level. I was thinking about this and talking about it on my last Why Read episode with
Uh-huh.
Ridhima and with Andy Smith.
Yeah.
And because we were talking about political fantasy, and when I think about it, yeah, there are so many books that could be considered political fantasy that I've loved.
Yeah.
But whenever I hear it's political fantasy, I don't know why I never get excited. And I think part of it is that
Hmm.
when I love politics in fantasy, it's
Yeah.
usually because I could see how it's directly affecting the character. Like it's directly affecting the
Exactly.
different moving parts. And I think, like, for example, just because it's such a recent example for me, Robin Hobb does an incredible job with this in Live Ships, like where I don't feel like she is there's a little bit of exposition in the first book about the politics, but not a lot is explained about it, and except that you start to get it more and more through the characters and what they're experiencing, how they're being
Yes.
directly affected by the
Yes.
political situation and by patriarchy, which she never says, even points the finger like there's patriarchy in this world, but it's clear and obvious.
Right.
And you see how all these things are affecting the characters so directly, but it's always in such a personal way, and it's never in a, like, overtly spelled out explained way all the time. And so I feel like that's how you get me invested. That's how I'm like into this theme or into this situation politically, is that
Yeah.
it just then now I care that this big thing that's happening politically over here, because it's going to affect all the people over here, and now this over here might affect this over here, but she doesn't even explain that, but it's like I could put it together in my head, and I think
Yeah.
that's brilliant.
I agree
Mhm.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's you're experiencing it in a way where she's letting this political situation out through the lens of the characters and thereby making it a much more compelling experience and making it a part of the story rather than yanking you out of the story to
Mhm.
say, here, reader, let me explain all of this background information and boom, info dump. That's hard to do. That's a
That's
skill.
hard. That's got to be hard. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
And because I
skill.
could also understand being excited about your political system, or
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
with for some writers their magic systems or whatever it is, that
Yep.
try to
Yep.
like let me explain this. And yeah,
And you're
I
so
think
eager for readers to see all the stuff you developed to make this a really three-dimensional world but you need to ask, how does this is this serving the story?
Mhm.
It's not that you don't have exposition. You
Right.
always need some exposition.
Yes.
It's just how can you make it a part of the story, part of the character's journey, so that it feels organic and natural for the reader.
Right.
But yeah, I'm so
Yeah.
excited that you're reading Realm of the Elderling.
Me
And
too.
you're at the point where, at least for me, I think that Farseer is peak Realm of the Elderlings.
You mean Tawny Man?
Not Farseer, I mean Tawny Man. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Tawny Man. I did like Farseer, but it wasn't really the point where I when I read Farseer the first time, it was like, okay, this is good. I see why some people like it. I don't. I'm not super, like blown away, but it's sort of top 20-ish maybe for me. And then I read what you just read recently,
Mm.
Lives of Traders, and I was like pretty blown away. I was like, this is okay. This I see now where people talk about her character work and everything. And I do think if I reread Farseer, I probably will appreciate it even more. But Tawny Man was where I absolutely just emotionally, as well as all the other stuff, fell in love with the series. And it may be because I experienced, as you know, the loss of our family dog at the
Oh,
time,
yeah.
of Belladonna.
Yeah.
And I think you'll see, you've yourself have experienced something similar recently. So I'll be curious to see how you react to Fool's
Mhm.
Errand and when you get into it and just Tawny Man in general because it's just such a wonderful exploration of relationships. To me, some of the key relationships in the greater series begin to be, now I see why people gush about this particular relationship or other, So it's just yeah, there's some really uh, amazing stuff. Definitely more tears. I don't think I cried at all during either Farseer or Live Ship Traders, but Tawny Man, I could barely see for large
Yeah.
portions of it.
I remember getting really emotional at one point in Farseer.
Uh-huh.
Well, I got emotional a couple of times, I think. Uh, specifically one instance where I remember in book one where Fitz felt lonely, and the way she
Mhm.
described this loneliness is like, oh, I can feel this. Uh, and then I think the end of Royal Assassin is pretty intense.
Yeah.
But I also haven't, I don't think either, I don't think I've cried through either of the trilogies either.
Okay.
But but
Okay.
I do think she does write some of the most compelling characters. I think the way that she writes a character, like their thought process, the
Yeah.
way she moves through thought is possibly the most natural I've ever read in fantasy.
Uh-huh.
Uh, maybe, I don't know. It's actually kind of similar. In some ways, it reminds me of George R. R. Martin, oddly, even though they have
I can
very
see
different
that.
styles. I
Yeah.
could see
Yeah.
some similarities in the way that there's like this gradation of tone. Tone is something I'm obsessed with lately.
Uh-huh.
I've been thinking about a lot, specifically, especially when we're in a character's mind, and
Yeah.
it's it's never just I'm hopeful for this whole entire chapter. It's more like there's hope and then there's worry and then there's fear and then there's thinking about this over here and just being able to move organically through a thought stream with different emotional ups and downs.
Okay.
That is something I'm fascinated by. And that's something I've noticed that Hobb does so well. And it's something I've also noticed Martin do too. Like where do you know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about? Because
I
I think
do.
that that's how our thoughts work. At least that's how my mind works. Sometimes I'll be worrying about something and then I'll think, but then this over here. And then I might have a hopeful thought. Then I have a worried thought. And then I have, it's never just one thing all the time. So
Yes.
it's the way you move through those things and at the same time relay certain information about the person and about what's going on in the story in the world. That's incredible. That's like such a gift of writing to me.
Oh, I agree to reflect the human experience. And it's amazing to me that both authors, Hobb and Martin, so Hobb does in the Fitz books, it's first person narration. So it might be easier to pull. What you're talking about is, at least on the surface of it, easier to pull off if you have a first person narration to
Hmm.
share those internal thoughts, these very raw observations about one's experience, But both, so Martin's Song of Ice and Fire is third person, and so is the Live Ship Trader trilogy.
Yeah.
And so they're able to achieve this even when it's a third person narration, he, she, they. And I think that sometimes you see it in other authors too, but I think to a degree, a lot of that's achieved through a kind of internal focalization, which is where the narrative voice takes on the POV character. So
Yes.
Martin's books famously are every chapter is a POV character is named for the character. So John, and then the whole chapter is John's POV.
Hmm.
Or Arya, and that whole chapter is her POV. And I think to a degree, Abercrombie is, I think, the most obvious example of internal
Mm.
focalization,
Hmm.
where you have the skill of having the character's voice bleed into the narrative voice,
Yeah. Yeah.
and give you a real sense of that whole person, in that in those scenes, So I think you're absolutely right about that.
I need to analyze more about how Abercrombie does it because I love the way Abercrombie writes
Yeah,
characters in that way.
yeah.
But specifically, there was one scene almost thought about doing a video about it. Um, there's one scene in Mad Ship with from Malta's perspective, and
Uh-huh.
without going into spoilers, it's the way that Hobb incorporates the feeling of walking on the muddy ground and
Yes.
imagining the worms underneath and then and there's like a fear and anxiety and then there's like but I will do this like there's this hope this like I'm going to be courageous and then there's like but then there's the possible cats over here and there's
Yeah.
allusions to the lore of the world and then there's like this other thought that comes in where they're angry at something. It's just like this really interesting
Hmm.
shift of like how they're trying to get through the worry or cope with the worry.
Yeah.
And then it's integrating the setting, which also adds a layer to it. And the
Hmm.
same thing with A Song of Ice and Fire. I did a close reading of a chapter with Jimmy one time. It was for his podcast, the Bend the Knee podcast.
Oh, cool.
And it was from Catelyn Stark's perspective. And there's a lightning storm going on. And at the same time, she's really worried about what's going to happen to her. And then
Mm.
she's like, then she thinks about one of her sons, and then she gets hopeful. And then she thinks about this other bigger situation. And then she gets worried again and upset. And then, oh, but then this over here. And so, like, there's like this hope and worry cycle. And it's not just the same every time, but it's
Yeah.
this gradation. And at the same time as this thunderstorm is going on and
Yeah.
lightning is happening at certain moments. And it's like the symphony of how it's happening. It feels like a symphony to me, the way it works together, like the way that the tone moves. And it doesn't
Yeah.
stay. You could look at that chapter and say, oh, that's just a dark chapter. But there are like moments of hope and there are moments of other kinds of emotions that come up. It's not one note. So I just find that fascinating to me.
I'm reading an author, actually audiobooking an author right now, a book right now by an author who is self-published, and I think she is really good at this, what we're talking
Oh,
about right now. Her
yeah.
name is Sarah Ballstrup, and the book is called The Way of Unity, and she is really great at what you're talking about right now. She's just got this wonderful ability to ground you within a character's body, even
Yes.
and to feel how the sensations they're experiencing contribute to the tone, that you're talking about, and the overall, and even sort of the natural fallacy, the idea that the atmosphere and everything is in some kind of simpatico with the character and what they're experiencing. Yeah, she's so good at that. I'm just mentioning things about the flesh, and how that contributes to the character's human experience. And of course, there's really, it's kind of mystical and magical, very atmospheric writing. She's really good, actually. I'm enjoying this a lot. Almost, I feel like I'm almost not quite skilled enough as an audiobook listener to appreciate everything the way I would maybe if I had the words on the page in front of me, but I can even as I'm listening to it, I'm thinking, wow, this is really good. This is
Mm.
really grounded writing. But yes, I do get what you're talking about, and I think it's something that, again, if you're just speed reading, you're gonna miss this
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh, yeah.
If you're
There's
just
just
reading
so
for
much.
plot,
Yeah.
you're gonna
Yeah.
miss all this depth and experience, I think.
I
So
think so too. Another author I admire with this is Tolkien. Um,
sure, yeah,
I went back and I just reread some passages in Fellowship of the Ring and I wanted to compare them to Return of the King. And there are some passages, and it's interesting because when you think about Fellowship of the Ring, it's easy to get carried away in the beauty of it. Like it's just so beautiful. Middle Earth is so gorgeous, and he
yeah,
builds this beautiful natural setting. But when I went back and reread some of those passages, there was a strangeness to it too.
uh-huh,
There was there was a sense of discomfort because they're leaving Hobbiton. They're leaving their comfort zone. So
mhm,
while there's beauty, there's also there's also some hesitation. There's also some strange. weirdness there. And it's
Yeah.
like something I almost could miss because I'm getting caught up in how beautiful it is. Like
Something
it.
elvish about the outside, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's, elves aren't just pretty, they are dangerous and scary, right?
Hmm. Yes. Not to get too carried away, but yeah, it's something I've been really fascinated by how authors do that.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's a skill. It really is. And I'm loving this one that I'm listening to right now. Another one I'm reading, actually, the physical book is Tad Williams. He's brilliant at it
Oh,
too.
I need to get to Tad. That's a big hole in my reading. And I am so speaking of audiobooks though, I've told you I'm going to be reading While Darkness Gathers, but
Yeah,
Alan made me promise to wait for the audiobook so that I could get that experience together. And I'll immersion read it. I'll read it with both my
yeah,
eyes and my ears,
yeah,
but I'm really looking forward to it. I've been hearing
yeah.
such great praise for it.
I will. I'll be curious to see what you think of it. I think the for people who pay close attention to the craft of writing, which I understand, not everybody's going to do that. Like if I'm eating at a restaurant, I'm not going to be thinking about exactly what ingredients are in this food. I'm just going to be eating the food because I don't know
Right.
much about cuisine. I'm not a chef, you know. So if I'm, I totally get that most people are not like looking at, the craft stuff when they're reading a book. But for people who just are in the habit of that, like Jenny Wirtz read While Darkness Gathers, and I was really very delighted with her feedback on it, which was she thought it was the best thing I've written,
Oh,
basically from a craft perspective,
yeah.
So that made me really happy because I was really trying to do stuff in While Darkness Gathers that probably most people, like if they're like me at the restaurant, they're not going to notice these things. But from a what I was trying to pull off there was just to boil it down to this in simplest terms. I was trying to do a lot more with a lot less, I guess you could
Mhm.
say. And hopefully, even if readers don't have the ability to articulate that in words, they at least feel it, they experience it. I'm hoping that people get what I'm trying. That's what every author hopes, of course. But it was an experiment for me and a very deliberate from everything to the lack of description compared to what I did in the trilogy. Obviously, the book is a lot shorter, and you can just see it's 300 pages as opposed to Return to Adan, which is, I don't know, what is it, 700 or 800 pages long
Oh
or
yeah.
something.
Yeah, that's true. It is a much shorter book. Yeah.
It's a much shorter book, so I'm trying to do more with less, essentially.
Mm.
But yeah, we'll see. And I hope I'm getting better at certain things. Like immediately getting a reader to be attached to a character is a skill. It's a really amazing skill that some people are just natural storytellers and they have that. And it's something that I've wanted to get better at. So hopefully it's something that from the feedback I'm getting, I think that I probably succeeded to some degree, at least in While Darkness Gathers with some of the new characters. So we'll see. I'm really
Yeah.
curious to see what Alan's narration sounds like. Again,
Oh.
I think I know what his narration is going to be like for Return to Adan for the most part, because of course there is one major new character that I'm really curious about how he's going to voice that character. And I don't think it's a spoiler to say her name is Saren.
Aaron. Hmm.
But other than that, I'm not anticipating any major surprises. But while Darkness Gathers, there'll be some new characters, for him to play with when he does that. So yeah,
Oh, that's exciting. I'm excited. I'm so excited to immersion read that.
yeah.
So
And I'm hoping that Alan, once he's done with the Adan stuff, because I got him first, so nobody else can have him until he's done with my books. But um, I'm hoping that he's really going to get noticed and that this leads to some great places for him as an
yeah,
audiobook narrator
I
because
hope
he's
so.
got, I mean, now that I've been listening to audiobooks, I've listened to Stephen Pacey, I've listened to Andy Serkis, I've listened to Jeff Hayes, I've listened to quite a few others, the Dresden Files guy, James Marsters. The people I've always heard are really great audiobook narrators, and I think Alan is up there. I think he could compare to
Wow.
these people. To me, anyway.
Yeah.
And I've had other people say that too. I'm not. it's not just me. Of course I'm biased
Yeah.
because he's my friend, but I've had other people tell me, look, he's just as good as some of the best. So I think he could go places with this.
Yeah, he's told me that he feels like he's getting better and better too. So,
Yeah,
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 that's exciting. Oh
yeah,
wow,
yeah. I mean, he
very
brought a lot of
cool.
talent to it in the first place, but again, you do something a lot and you get better at it. So
Yeah, that's
hopefully the
exciting.
ADN trilogy becomes a springboard for Alan's audiobook narrator career.
I can't wait. Yeah, I'm so excited for that. I'm so happy that you decided to make him your audiobook narrator.
Well, it was Jimmy's idea in the first place.
Hooray, Jimmy. Jimmy did an
Yeah,
awesome job with that. He comes up with
yeah.
some great ideas, doesn't he?
He's an idea guy.
He is. He's
Yeah,
a good idea
yeah,
guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what are you excited about reading these days? Yeah, what are you getting up to in your reading life?
I am reading Sword of the Lictor right now.
Oh boy, the third
Yeah.
part of Book of the New Sun. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Although we haven't had our discussion yet
I
for
know.
book
I'm waiting
two.
until it gets scheduled at least.
I know.
It's
I
hard to
know.
schedule a discussion with like 12 people or whatever we were. So I do feel,
Yeah, I don't envy Tutor Ramble.
yeah.
I told him that. I said, I don't envy your task at all. So,
You know what I
uh,
would do, honestly, if it were me, I would just say, this is the date, be there or don't be there.
mhm.
Make it your priority. If you were, I don't know, if you're going to get married on that day, then just cancel your wedding and be there for the.
There you go. Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
just say, this is it. We're doing it on this day. And if you can come, come. If you can't, well, see you next time.
Yeah. It's a miracle that we all were able to accommodate our schedules for the first
For the
meeting, to be
first
honest.
one. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, but I did go ahead and carry on. So what I've been doing is we started this with book two, but Jake from Nerd Level Rising, who's become a good friend of mine,
yeah,
uh, I invited him because he did a video where he talked about not feeling like he was as good at analyzing books, kind of back to that topic again, which I think he's wrong. I think he's grown so
I
much and he's
I
growing
agree with
all the
you.
time.
Yeah,
Oh my
he actually
goodness.
is very insightful, very
He
well
is.
spoken, very intelligent. Yeah,
He is very insightful. And so I told him, I said, no, I am, because he shouted me out. And I said, I am on this journey with you.
yeah,
And I told him, I said, why don't we do a daily buddy read of book two
yeah,
and share thoughts? Because I wanted to show him, like, I'm on this with you. Like, so we did this together for book two for a Claw of the Conciliator. We read a chapter a day and just checked in with each other about thoughts. Some
yeah,
days we had to miss depending on the situation, but then we got back on track, and then we had a fantastic journey just analyzing, put our minds together.
yeah.
And so we decided to do it again for Sort of the Lictor, and we just both couldn't wait. We decided we wanted to go
Okay.
ahead and continue. And
You'll have good recall on it too, I'm sure, because you're doing it this way with Jay.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we were doing a chapter a day. We've upped it to two chapters a day. And actually,
yeah,
to be honest, because the chapters are so short in Book of the New Sun, I
yeah,
feel like it's actually helped me to process the story a little better doing that.
yeah.
And I am having the best time with this one. This is
Good.
my favorite by far so far. I'm halfway
Yeah,
through. I'm a little past the halfway point.
yeah.
It's by far my favorite. I'm loving this one. I
Good.
feel as though, I don't know if it's my imagination, but I feel as though there's a richness that the prose has become a bit richer in this installment. I don't know if I'm imagining that, but I'm noticing more complex sentences at times, but there
Uh-huh.
are generally, like, almost every single chapter, there's at least one or two, there's at least a few different sentences that I just want to quote, that I've like been quoting back. I'm like, that is just gorgeous writing right there. Like, it's just phenomenal writing. And not only that, but I'm finding the story more and more compelling. So yeah, I'm just having a blast reading that and then sharing thoughts with Jake, who's absolutely incredibly insightful. And so that has been just the biggest joy for me lately. I've been loving it so much that it's just making me think about how much I love reading books with beautiful prose. Like, I love reading
Yeah,
books with rich prose. Like, I know that's not necessarily on trend in a lot of, I won't say all, but a lot of modern fantasy stories these
yeah,
days, right?
Yeah.
But and there are still, people who are pushing that. I would say, I know you are putting attention to more rich and descriptive prose than what is typical. And there are still authors publishing, like I know Robin Hobb's still publishing, and
Yep.
Joe Abercrombie is still publishing, and uh, Stephen Erickson. But,
Yeah.
but yeah, I know that that's not everybody's cup of tea these days,
Well,
but
it's
I
not,
love
unfortunately,
it.
but that's the way the world is.
Hmm.
All you have to do to see what sells or what's popular is go on Goodreads and see which books have the very highest ratings. And I can promise you that consistently there'll be books that are simpler in terms of their prose,
Mm,
that are probably pitched at about a sixth grade reading level.
mm.
Whereas books that get more complex tend to have, so there are some people who even won't read a book if it's below 4-star average rating on Goodreads, which I think is kind of tragic in a way. Because if you're doing that as a policy, you're missing a lot of great books like Gardens of the Moon or Curse of the Mistwraith, or the first book in Long Price Quartet, A Shadow in Summer, has an abysmally low average rating on Goodreads.
The darkness that comes before. I
The
think it
darkness that
has
comes before,
below a
on and on. And guess
3.8
what? All
rating.
these have in common. They're beautifully written. They're
Yeah.
complex. They have prose that I would hold up as among the very best. So it tells you pretty consistently on Goodreads what is popular is different from complexity. It tends to be more simplistic, and that's just the way it is. That more people gravitate toward easy entertainment than toward deep, thought-provoking, transformative. Because that's more work. Obviously, you have to be work hard to get to a certain point where you actually like reading Jenny Wirtz. You and I both know there's a bunch of words in there I have to look up, because I'm not familiar with them. But
Yeah.
once I do that, I'm appreciative, and it equips me for even more. It broadens my ability to read even more great books. But yeah, so in terms of what sells or what's popular, it's not going to be the really complex stuff. It's not going to
Yeah.
be the really rich stuff. It's going to be the more entertainment. That's
Yeah.
just the way the world is.
Well, I say that, but at the same time, there are some styles that are more economical that I still
Mhm.
also love and adore. Like, for
Yep.
example, um, Kazuo Ishiguro is
Uh-huh.
becoming one of my favorite authors of all time. I say that after reading the 4 books by him, and there are several more I have yet to read.
Yeah.
But at this point, I mean, I am down to read every single one that he's
So
written
I would
because,
compare him and writers like Hemingway, or even somebody like Raymond Carver, kind of these more minimalist style writers. They're like Picasso, okay?
mm,
A lot of
mm,
people see a Picasso painting and they're like, "Oh, come on, I could do that," or "A monkey could do
mm,
that," or "My 3-year-old could do that." No, I'm
yeah.
sorry. He's doing something that you don't even understand because he took years and years and years of training to get to the point where he could do that, where he could, send develop his own style, and do something like cubism or whatever. He knows exactly what he's doing. And a 3-year-old doesn't. A monkey doesn't. You don't. I'm sorry. You don't know as much as Picasso knew. And I would compare writers like Ishiguro to that. I would say it may feel simple, it may feel like, oh, you and I could do that. Sure. I mean, why not? I've read a bunch of books. I could write like that. No, I'm sorry, you can't. This is a master. This is somebody who spent years developing his craft. And it may feel simplistic or easy, but I don't think it is. I think it's very
No.
deliberate, right?
Not at all.
Yeah.
I am mind blown though by him right now.
Sure.
Murphy and I read A Pale View of Hills at the beginning of the month. I don't even think the book is 200 pages. I
Uh-huh.
maybe 200. It's a fairly short book. Have you read it? Do you own it?
No, I've only read The Buried Giant by him.
Oh, I have not read that one yet. I need to
Oh,
read that one.
I'm gonna reread it at some point.
Oh,
So
really? Oh,
yeah.
cool. Okay, good to know.
Yep.
But yeah, with A Pale View of Hills, so when I was reading it, it takes place in Nagasaki following the bombing.
Uh,
It's actually a retrospective book. It's a frame narrative of a woman in the present timeline reflecting on her time living in Nagasaki just post the atomic bomb there. And so on the one hand, I felt like, oh, I'm really getting the themes of this story. We're really exploring what life was like in Nagasaki at that time, but also what it meant to be a woman during this time. And
Mm,
I felt like I was grasping that, and also this juxtaposition between Western idealism of femininity and what it means to be a woman versus the traditional Japanese style of living. And I got to the end of the book and then I thought, wait, is that it? Like there had to be more to it. And then I thought about it and I thought
huh,
about it. And then suddenly all these like light bulbs went off in my head
huh.
about certain things I had read in the last few chapters. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I thought, I messaged Murphy and I was like, I think the book is doing this. And she said, oh, I love this, but I think the book is doing this. And I'm like, oh, I think you're right. And then, and it was like, I couldn't. I was mind blown. It was like I think I understood some of the themes, and then when I saw this whole other layer of what he was doing, it just added a whole other basement level ground of depth to what the story was actually doing. And
Yeah.
my mind was my mind was blown. I just I it's funny because I had Justin, my husband, read Clara and the Sun, which is another book that I adored by Ishiguro. It was my first Ishiguro book.
Okay.
And he said it was funny because I read that with Murphy and Jimmy, and something that I remember Jimmy said this at the very beginning of the book, and Justin, not hearing any of our conversations, said the exact same thing.
Huh.
He started the book and he said, he's saying a lot with very few words.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
said, yes. And he said, that's not easy to do. And I said, yes. And my husband's not an avid reader. He's not somebody who studies his stuff. He doesn't watch BookTube very much.
Yeah.
But he picked up on that. Like he
Yeah.
understood. Like there's so much subtlety to what Ishiguro
Yeah.
does that, yeah, I don't think anybody can just handle or do or pull off. That minimalist style
Yeah.
is,
Le Guin
is
is another one who can say a lot
mm,
with few words, and that's kind of what I was trying to do in While Darkness Gathers. That's what I was
yeah. Oh,
trying.
cool. Yes. Oh my gosh. So
A
it's
little
funny
bit of
you
that.
say that about Le Guin, that she's
Yeah.
does so much with few words because The Dispossessed is still my favorite Le Guin novel so
Uh-huh.
far.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is I read that alongside Ellen, who did not like the book.
Did not like is a bit of an
But
understatement.
to be fair, I think Jared Henderson and I are pretty much the only people on the planet who love the book to the extent we do. Us and maybe K Fox and maybe Ponderies with Pete. There's just like a few. There's
Yeah,
like a
there's more
tiny
than a
little.
few. There are more
There's
than a few of you. Yeah.
there's a tiny little dispossessed fan club. Well, especially among fantasy readers. Maybe I should put it that way. I
Yeah.
feel like most fantasy readers I know just don't care for Le Guin sci-fi. But it's
Do you
funny you say
actually
that.
still you think it's even better than Left Hand of Darkness?
I loved it more. I
Wow.
did.
Okay.
I love Left Hand of Darkness though too.
Uh-huh.
I could easily see why people would prefer that one, but The Dispossessed, I think, and both books do something similar that I love that Le Guin does, and that is her way of constructing dual societies, like
Hmm.
two different, completely different societies,
Yeah.
and showing you societal themes through that contrast and through a specific character wrestling with the cultural messages of those societies. Like it's just that's I've noticed that that's something I love in books is a dual society structure. I know
Yeah.
in epic fantasy we get multiple societies, but there's something special to me, especially in a standalone book, to explore in depth two different distinct societies.
Well, because I think science fiction lends itself more to kind of a thought experiment
Mm,
of that sort. And Le Guin is brilliant at doing this, whether it's in a short story like The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas, or whether it's in a novel length story like Left Hand of Darkness or what have you. She's doing it's theme first. It's theme first for
yes.
her, and she's just so and unbelievably economical in how she explores that theme in so few words and with such beauty at the same time. Like I always feel elevated and just I don't know, this wonderful sense of transcendence when I read a Le Guin book.
Well, so there are two things here. One is that it blows my mind that with the economy of words, like you said, because the dispossessed, like I said, the dual societies, we have a moon planet and a mother planet, and the moon planet is this anarchist, sort of dystopian kind of, it's weird. It's a utopia dystopia situation there.
Yeah.
And then you have a mother planet that's more like our world, more analogous to our world. There are warring nations, there's capitalism, there's a lot of exploitation, it's a patriarchy, but uh, how much depth she has to the world building in both places in a
Yeah.
standalone novel is
Yeah.
what blows my mind because yeah, so that's one thing. But another thing when it comes to the writing, and I think this is something that I think can easily be underappreciated about Le Guin, especially with her science fiction, maybe not so much in her fantasy,
Mm.
is the way that she has so much dexterity with her writing style,
Hmm.
depending on the emotional landscape of the character and what's being presented thematically. And I didn't recognize or appreciate this until I was in a live stream and Alan was mocking Le Guin and mocking the book. And he read this one passage and it was Shevik into The Dispossessed. And it's this long, almost like run-on sentence passage of this and this and this and this and this and describing all these different things that are happening. And a friend in the video said, so many words. And I was like, no. And then Jimmy's the one who was like, she's trying to do that for a specific effect. She's
Right.
trying to get across the character who is doing it. And Jimmy got it. And he hadn't even read the book. And I was
That's
like,
internal
that's it.
focalization.
Yes,
Mhm.
it was internal
Yeah.
focalization
Yeah.
of what Shevik was experiencing at that point and
Yeah.
just being conveyed perfectly through the different style. But that technique is not throughout the book. It's
Right.
not throughout the book. If you start the book, it's there was a wall. There was it's so terse, like it
Yeah.
almost like very terse sentences. And then you get to that part and it goes on and on. And then other parts, it's more lyrical when there's like a romantic interaction with
Mm.
Shevik and his wife. And it's like
Yeah.
the way that, but it's something that I could almost miss, except that Alan was criticizing certain passages and it made me look back and I'm like, oh, wow, I see what she was doing.
Yeah.
But I was just in the story. I didn't quite notice it until I went back and I noticed she's varying her prose
Yeah.
throughout.
But you
And
experienced it on some level, even as you were reading it.
yeah,
She's aware of
yeah,
it.
you experience it. You just don't realize it.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
also like what in our discussion of Left Hand of Darkness, remember Lecton was pointing out that the way that I cannot remember the characters' names anymore, but the way that we get that one character's perspective from the envoy character, how
Right.
he is his journalistic style, it's far more,
Yeah.
it's far different. It's actually more lyrical in a way, is what he was saying.
Hmm.
Even though he's from this patriarchy planet, or from this more divided planet, for dualistic planet, than the more like journalistic style of the character that we're following.
Right.
It's just these are things you could easily miss, like if you're not paying attention or you're experiencing them but just not noticing them, like you said, on a conscious level.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, Le Guin's brilliant. And you have not yet read her fantasy, the Earthsea books?
Not yet,
Okay.
not yet. I'm going to read one more of her science fiction books,
Okay.
because we ended up voting it. Well, I picked it and it won again for the Fireside Book Club.
Yay.
So it's, yeah,
You're
so
on a
it's
roll
called,
there, aren't you? I
I
think.
am. I hope people don't hate this one like they hated the last one. But yeah, we're going to be reading The Lathe of Heaven by Le Guin.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's a short book. It's not part of her Hainish cycle,
Right.
but I've heard good things. So
Okay.
we'll see.
Cool. Cool. Yeah. I haven't read Dispossessed yet, so that's next after I actually want to finish the Earthsea. I still haven't finished the fifth novel. I did read all of they're called short stories, but really some of them are almost like uh well, they're short stories, I guess. But anyway, they're beautiful, and I can't wait to read the last Earthsea book, and then I'll read the Dispossessed.
Yeah.
So
Another author, though, I'd recommend to you, Philip. Have you ever read Lois McMaster Bejeweled?
no, and she's on my list of my guilty list of authors I haven't read. So yes, but I do really want to read the Curse of Callion, or is
Chalian? Yeah, the curse. I don't know how you pronounce it, but the curse of Chalian or Chalian.
yeah,
I think
CH.
you
Yeah,
would
yeah,
love that book. I
yeah.
think that's a Philip book.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I gotta read that. That's probably next year though.
I
'Cause,
know. I know. I'm just adding to your list. I've often
no,
told people.
I have a list of books, and that book has been on my list for probably 3 or 4 years now. So or more even. Yeah.
I know Jenny Wirtz is also a fan. She said that Bejeweled
Yeah.
never misses. And I honestly think people who love Guy Gavriel Kay should read that book. I think
Okay.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, they're different, but it's far more fantasy, like has more fantasy elements than Kay usually employs.
Yep.
But
Okay.
I think it's a Philip book. I do. And it
Well,
can be read
I'm
as a
starting
standalone.
my GGK big GGK read in October with my reread of Tigana, which I know isn't your favorite, but you didn't dislike it, but
It's not my least favorite, and it made it
yeah,
into my top 10 favorite books of last year.
yeah, okay, so yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be doing that in October, and then hopefully at least one GGK book a month. I may not be able to do that because SPFBO is going to have me really busy till the end of the year. But definitely next year it'll be one GGK a month, I think. So, and there's quite a
Yay.
few to get through. What I like is that so many of them are actually standalones. So that's
Yeah. Well, if there are any that I haven't read, I would love to read any
okay.
GGK
I'll
alongside
keep
you.
that in mind. Yeah, I'm going to be
Yeah.
doing one with Josh. Um, I can't remember which one is his favorite.
My favorite is A Song for
Song.
Urban.
Maybe that's the one that Josh asked to do with me.
Can I do it with you guys too? It's my
Okay.
favorite too. It's because it has troubadours. So both Josh and I instantly connected to that
I
one.
wish I could remember which one it was for sure. It might be Song for Our
A
Bone.
Song for Urban is my favorite. Yeah, it's his
He'll
favorite too.
correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
but yes, of
It,
course you could join us. I'm going to be doing Tagana with someone,
mhm.
but yeah, I imagine I'll get into some discussions with these
I'm
GGK.
also trying to get Nikhil to read A Song for Urban
Oh,
because
neat.
of
Oh,
his
because
music
he's a
background.
musician too. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
needs to read it. Yeah. But actually, the songs in there are so beautiful. And I've never read a book before where song had such a direct, significant impact on
Huh.
culture and story and plot. I
Huh.
feel like it's so beautifully handled. And
Yeah.
again, it has a dual society thing that I love.
So if you were
Yeah.
to make a video of fantasy books where music is most meaningfully incorporated, that would be near the top, I assume.
Yeah, I did one. I did a video. You saw it. Remember with David and Nikhil? It was a
Oh yeah, of
collaborative
course.
video.
Yeah, that's a discussion. I mean more like a top 10 thing, you
A
know.
top 10. Oh, yeah, yeah. That would be number one, probably.
Okay, okay, yeah. I
Hmm.
did see that discussion with
That's how
the three of
strongly I
you.
feel like music is important in that book. Yeah.
So what would be other books though that would feature maybe in that list for you, other than Song for Our Bone? I think Jenny Wirtz does some really great
Oh,
music.
yeah. Jenny Wirtz is
Yeah.
definitely really high on that list. I think she'd probably be number two. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anywhere
and, and,
else
and
where you feel music is beautifully incorporated
A
into
Song of Ice and Fire for sure. Yeah. There are
okay.
several songs in there. Yeah. The Rains of Kashmir. Um,
Castamere, I think. Yeah.
Castamere, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a really powerful one.
Yeah.
There's also the Bear, A Maiden Fair, or some of the other
Yeah,
ones.
yeah.
I love the way songs are incorporated in A Song
I
of
feel
Ice
like
and
that's
Fire.
something he probably got a little bit at least from Tolkien.
Oh yeah. Oh, he had to. So of course Tolkien at 100%. That
100%
would
has to be on the list.
has to
Yeah.
be on the list, and it breaks my heart that some people skip the songs, but
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
they're
But
missing
yeah,
out.
no.
Yeah.
I think also Baker incorporates some songs too, and
Yes,
battle scenes, and also some like, yeah, he incorporates it in a few different places, doesn't he?
for sure.
Yeah, and you have songs in yours, but you said they're not sung,
I mean, there are in book three, so Abin the Shaper it would be something in between a chant and a song, right?
which is why Alan gets away with not singing.
Yeah,
Bummer.
unfortunately. But in book three, where there are songs, they're sung, you know.
Okay,
So
good. Yeah,
that would be Saren, you know. Saren sings, outright sings. So
yeah.
I just sort of suggested once maybe Alan, you could have Christina sing the Saren songs in the audiobook narration. We're not going to do that, but that might,
Oh, that'd be neat though.
yeah.
And also, oh gosh, there's something else I was thinking about. What is it? Oh, I know I'm missing one. that's really important. Oh yeah, Name of the Wind. I know people will
Oh
get
my
angry if I
goodness,
don't
of
mention Name of the
course.
Wind.
Name of the Wind would have to. I would
Or
put it on the
Painkillers.
list. I would put Name of the Wind on the list. Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've read Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear, but
So I don't
uh,
talk about this much, but I've read Name of the Wind at least 4 times.
oh wow,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Yeah. Partly because I taught it in my fantasy novels course,
Oh
and
wow,
there are students who really love that book, and
it's
then
great.
some who are
Yeah.
like, eh. But then I have some who just it's the best thing ever. They love it, you know.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I've read it at least 4 times, and I've read the second book, A Wise Man's Fear, twice. And I agree, it would have to be on a list of fantasy books that meaningfully incorporate songs. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And I'm sure, oh, and Mercedes Lackey's Arrows trilogy, there's a whole entire appendix of songs for that book, for that
Wow.
trilogy. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And the character in the first book is a singer. So yeah,
Okay.
that would have to make the list too.
All right.
Uh, I'm
See,
probably forgetting some other ones, but those are the ones that come to mind.
we got potential for a great video there, I think.
Yeah, well, I don't even think our collaboration with Nikhil did. We had as much interest as we were. I mean, we knew we were like kind of alone. I know a lot of people skip the songs,
You
but
have to package it as like a top 10 video.
oh yeah, that's right. The top 10. Yeah. Yeah.
Top
It was
10
still one of
fantasy
my
books.
favorite discussions though this year was that music
Yeah, it
collaborative
was
though,
beautiful.
collaboration.
Yeah,
It
beautiful
was so much
discussion.
fun. And it was the first time I got to interact with Nikhil, and he's just
Uh-huh.
so brilliant and
Yeah.
so lovely. So
And
yeah,
David did a great job of hosting it too.
he did. Oh, David is wonderful. I know he was like, oh, I don't feel like I'm, I don't have as much to say in this. But no, he had some wonderful insights. He brought up Dungeon Crawler Carl as
Uh-huh.
having a musical aspect to it, which was interesting. I don't
Okay, I'm only
remember
one
what we
book
said.
into it. Yeah, okay.
Oh, and we brought up Dark Tower. The Dark Tower series also has music in it.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
mostly just remember the Elton John song. I cannot remember the name of it that kept getting brought up in Wolves of the Kala, but there was some other stuff too.
Yeah, lots of illusions in
Yeah.
Dark Tower series, just all over the place. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Cool. Another one that um we don't talk about Neil Gaiman a whole lot these days.
Yeah.
But American Gods would have been a great pick too.
Mm.
There's a ton of musical references in American Gods. But yeah, I still love the
Yeah.
book.
Oh,
I don't think I'll read anything if new of his, but I still love American Gods. Yeah,
I know. It breaks my heart.
yeah.
What is this standalone book? The Ocean at the End of the Lane.
I love
That
that
was
book.
actually
Yeah.
that was the audiobook that got me into audiobooks, and he narrates it.
Wow.
And it was the first time because I also wasn't an audiobook believer way back then.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I got the CD from my library and listened to it in my car. And I remember I just wanted to keep driving and driving all day because I could not stop listening to it. I just was so pulled into the story. But yeah, it's sad. I probably won't read anymore. I don't know that I'll read any more Gaiman, but
Yeah, I don't feel like, I
it
mean,
does have
there's
a
so
place in my
many
heart.
authors that I want to read, and
Yeah.
uh, I would prefer to read brilliant authors who are also nice people.
Yeah, it's really hard. That whole separation of art from artist
I
has
know.
become
Yeah.
far more tricky for me. I feel the same way right now about Cormac McCarthy, who
Yeah.
is somebody I was considering a favorite author of all time.
Yep.
And All the Pretty Horses is one of my favorite books of all time. And
Sure.
and sadly, it's a little stained for me if I go back and reread it in the context of knowing exactly the direct thing that inspired that
Yeah.
story.
I'll be honest with you, it does not make me want to read more Cormac McCarthy. I've only read The Road.
Yeah.
I might have picked up others, but not now.
Yeah.
Not
It's,
now.
I'm so conflicted about it, honestly. And I never thought I would struggle with that situation as much
Mm.
as, I guess when it becomes one of your favorites, it's hard.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Everybody has to handle that in the way they feel is best.
The
But
personal decision. Yeah.
yeah, I do still have my Neil Gaiman books.
Yeah. I still
But
have a couple too. I don't
yeah.
know.
But I'm not gonna probably buy any new ones, possibly.
No.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. Well, anyway.
But
So,
fortunately, there are a lot of wonderful books out there from
yep,
wonderful people that we
yep,
could celebrate. And the genre is just continuing to grow, which is
yep,
exciting.
yep, yep. And nobody's a saint, so I'm obviously
No, nobody, that's true.
we're not
Yeah.
gonna just read books by saints because we won't be reading very many books.
Yeah,
You know.
that's a really solid point there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, so there's so many great things I'm so excited to be reading in GGK next year. What else am I? We got to finish our Wars of Light and
We
Shadow.
do. We need to
Yeah,
continue that. So I'm
really
looking forward to
excited.
continuing that. I'm also very eager to get into Stephen Donaldson's books.
I will do that too eventually. I think that's also going to be a 2026 thing, maybe
Mhm.
later. Yeah, we'll see. I'm going to be reading Gormenghast,
Oh, wow.
which I'm looking forward to reading it with Jay. Yeah, a contemplative reader. I don't know if do you know Jay yet?
A contemplative reader. I
Yeah.
know him. Is that what is his channel? What does he do?
I mean, called a contemplative reader. It's still smallish, but yeah, I
Is
mean,
he the one that does
he
has
reads
done
Gene
some?
Wolfe a lot.
Yes, I love
Yep.
him. He's
Okay.
great.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry, contemplative reader.
yeah,
I'm so bad with names. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's yes, love his channel. He's lovely.
He's very deep and
Yes,
he has
very
a
intelligent.
great voice too. He has a
Hmm.
nice voice for a YouTube channel.
He's like a Lutheran minister, isn't he, or something along those
So
lines?
I think his career mainly was as a lawyer, but
Oh,
he also has been deeply I'm not exactly sure. He has some kind of, he may even have a Master of Divinity or something like that. I don't think he's actually like a Lutheran priest per se, but he'll probably correct us if he watches. Jay, what
I'm
are
sorry
you?
if I'm getting all that wrong. Yeah.
I know he grew up on a pig farm, I think in Iowa,
Oh, wow.
and he became a lawyer, and obviously very deeply spiritual person who's gotten a lot of very like professional level. Like I think he may even have at this point a Master of Divinity or something like that. But he's definitely formally studied, religion and philosophy. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
wow. Yeah, that's impressive. That's
yep.
impressive.
Yep, yep. Oh, we bring all kinds of interesting people to our community.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Everybody with their skill set and their enthusiasm and experiences. Yeah. It's a great thing to be part of, isn't it?
It is. It's an exciting time. It's an exciting time to be part of these conversations.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think so. So yeah. Well, Joanna, I really appreciate the time you've given me today. It's been great just to have a chance to reconnect and chat and reflect on these years here that we've shared together and look forward to many more, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me back on Dear Dr. Fantasy. This was so much fun.
Yep, yep, right. And so there will be, of course, a link to Joanna's channel. She is the original assassin elf. And if you're ever curious to know how that name came about, it is, I think, an interesting story, actually. I think it came up first during so it was a result of us all going to ICFA. And I can't remember exactly how it happened, but I think I made this goofy video where I was apologizing to Jimmy because I let AP. I think you were involved. You were the assassin elf, essentially, in the middle of that, and you had been called an elf earlier than that. But I think I brought the assassin thing in. I think, but I don't know. Do you remember that? How did that go down exactly? And the
I
video's still up on my channel if anyone
yeah,
wants to watch it.
yeah.
It says
I
"I'm sorry, Jimmy" is the the name of the video.
I was going to ask you if I could just like hire you to write out my elf origin story. That would be
Uh-huh.
really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Or just like do a video like explaining Joanna's origin elf. I don't know. That'd be fun.
There was a wrestling match
It was a
involved.
wrestling match.
And
Hmm.
someone hired you to, I think, hit Jimmy with an alligator from behind. Is that what happened? I think
I
that's what
think so. I think
happened.
that maybe your nemesis
It
hired me.
was
I
the
don't remember exactly how it
it was
worked,
the
but
evil, nefarious nemesis who hired the assassin elf to take out innocent Jimmy while he was in a wrestling match by hitting him with an alligator. So from behind.
and now you had to apologize to him because
I had to apologize because I let it happen. I didn't
I do
stop
not
it.
remember the details of how this worked, but
I can't remember what Alan's role was. He wrestling with Jimmy? Is that what was happening?
I
Was
think
Alan in
that
the ring?
sounds right. I know he said that in one of your videos, but anyway,
I
I
think
don't
that's what it
know.
was. Which I would pay good money to watch Alan and Jimmy wrestle,
We
actually.
need to sort this plot out.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
Anyway, a link to Joanna's channel is in the description. Please go and check out her beautiful channel. She has so many
Thank
awesome,
you.
thoughtful, just wonderful videos on so many great books. This is a journey you're going to want to follow and learn from and appreciate. So, but that is it for us for now. Until next time.